We now come to the urgent question. Neil O'Brien.
Mr. Speaker, to ask the Foreign Secretary if she will make a statement on the process for the appointment of the United Kingdom's ambassador to the United States.
Minister Doherty.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the honourable gentleman for his question. Before I respond to it, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that we all recognise today as the House that it is, of course, the anniversary of the September the 11th attacks. Many of us will be attending commemorations later on today, and our thoughts are, of course, with all the thousands of people who lost their lives in that despicable terrorist attack, including many British, many American citizens and many other countries. And, Mr. Speaker, I think the whole House's condolences and thoughts will be with the family and friends of Charlie Kirk. Absolutely appalling attack and murder yesterday, Mr. Speaker. We know too well in this House, sitting underneath the two shields of our dear colleagues from across the political spectrum, the terrible consequences of political violence. And I know that the whole House will be thinking of Charlie's family, friends and others, and urging an end to this sort of political violence. It's absolutely appalling. Mr. Speaker, in light of additional information in emails written by Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as Ambassador to the United States. The emails show, Mr. Speaker, that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. In particular, Mr. Speaker, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. And in light of that, Mr. Speaker, and mindful, as we all are, of the victims of Epstein's appalling crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Neil O'Brien.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for granting this statement, and I agree with the words of the Minister about September 11th and Charlie Kirk. But, Mr. Speaker, this is yet another extraordinary error of judgment by this weak Prime Minister. And I pay tribute to the Leader of the Opposition for yesterday securing justice for the victims of Epstein. This raises massive questions. It is not just that Peter Mandelson said that Epstein was his best pal and that he loved him. It wasn't just that he brokered a deal for him while he was Business Secretary. We now, of course, know that he was working for Epstein's early release after he was convicted. And the simple question is this. Is the Minister now saying that the Prime Minister did not know about any of this at the point where he was appointed? Don't say the boxes were ticked and the process was followed. What did the Prime Minister know at the point of his appointment? Our Minister this morning said, my understanding was that all of the information was present. Is that correct? Did the Prime Minister know, and will the Government now publish all the documents relating to Peter Mandelson's vetting? And if the Minister says he doesn't know at the time, when did the Prime Minister become aware of these revelations? Now, Peter Mandelson quietly stayed at Epstein's house while he was in prison. Mandelson now says that he was wrong to think he was innocent. That's his defence. He had pleaded guilty. So there are huge questions here, Mr. Speaker. Did the State Department, the US State Department, give any warning to our government ahead of this appointment? Did the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, give any warning? Have any employees of Global Counsel visited our Washington embassy since his appointment? Next week is going to be the state visit. This is a huge turmoil ahead of it, and I cannot believe that the government have put our monarch in this terrible position. I am glad that Peter Mandelson has now gone. The Foreign Secretary had said that protecting women, girls and victims was her priority. How on earth did that square with the behaviour of the government over recent days, squirming and twisting to try and protect Peter Mandelson rather than the victims? Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. This is a government where you had a corruption minister having to resign over the links to corruption. You had a former police officer having to resign over having not been clear with the police. You've had a housing minister having to resign over not paying tax on a house. And now you put our ambassador to Washington in the middle of the biggest scandal in Washington. This is a weak Prime Minister with error after error of judgment.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think the first thing that we all need to be clear across this House, and I'm sure the honourable gentleman wouldn't disagree with this, is that the victims of Epstein are at the forefront of all of our minds. He was a despicable criminal who committed the most heinous crimes and destroyed the lives of so many women and girls. Clearly, obviously, events in the last few hours, he wrote his remarks before that, but I want to reiterate what I said to him, which is that the emails show that the depth and the extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. And in particular, Mr. Speaker, the suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. Lord Mandelson has resigned. That decision has been taken, and that is a very, very clear answer to his questions.
Andy MacDonald.
I'm sure I speak for the whole House in sending our best wishes to our colleague in Washington and Gateshead South for the appalling fire at her office overnight, and we send our very best wishes to her and her staff. May I thank the Minister for his statement. The Prime Minister has made exactly the right decision, and I think that has to be acknowledged. He's moved at pace to put that right. Don't be ridiculous. Treat it seriously.
Please. It's very important. There will be a lot of people listening to what's going on in this chamber. So please, let's put some courtesies to each other.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I ask the Minister? Clearly, the appointment process didn't pick up these issues. That's self-evident. So, can we have an assurance that there will be an inquiry as to why that was not the case, and that this House will be kept informed? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I first, I wasn't aware of the terrible incidents that he referred to this morning. I've just been informed, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House will be with our colleague from Washington and Gateshead. And, Mr. Speaker, I know how seriously you take the safety and security of members of this House, and I think particularly in light of international events and the tragic loss of colleagues, this all the more underlines why we must have security and safety to go about democratic debate in this country, whatever our views, in a safe and secure way. Mr. Speaker, I thank him for his comments on the decision. As I said, this is a decision that has been taken by the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary, and Lord Mandelson has resigned. He asks about the processes. Of course, any candidates for ambassador positions are subject to routine extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course, and I would point him to the formal processes outlined in the Diplomatic Service Code, which highlights the robust security clearance and vetting process that all members of the diplomatic service undergo.
Helen Maguire, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, our thoughts are also with the friends and families of the victims of 9/11, and I'd also firstly like to express my regret and sadness of the murder of Charlie Kirk, and I also hope that the staff and MP for Gateshead South are all okay following the incident at her office, because political violence should have absolutely no place in society. Tasked with overseeing the UK's relationship with Trump, the accusations surrounding Lord Mandelson cast a damning shadow. So it's right the Prime Minister has withdrawn his support for Lord Mandelson. Yesterday, the Prime Minister stood by Lord Mandelson's appointment to confirm that rigorous background checks had taken place. So what has changed since then? There remain questions over what the government knew and when about Lord Mandelson's relationship with the sex offender, whom he previously described as his best pal. Did he resign or was he sacked? It's vital that the Civil Service Commission now investigates whether the ambassador broke the Diplomatic Service Code by failing to come clean over these revelations sooner. Was the vetting process pushed through too fast? So will the Minister today confirm that an investigation will take place so that no such incidents can happen again? Reports have also surfaced that the Cabinet Office suppressed the relationship of a memo about Mandelson's relationship because it could compromise relations with the US. Will the Minister confirm if this was the case?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I thank her for her remarks regarding our honourable friend. And again, I would just underline the importance of us all being able to go about our roles in a safe and secure way, whatever our political views and our beliefs. And I think in light of international events, particularly in the United States, that should be all at the forefront of our minds today. I've been very clear, Mr. Speaker, in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador. That is very clear. The decision was taken by the Prime Minister and the Foreign Secretary, and those emails show that the depth and the extent of the relationship is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the comments about our condolences and concerns for our member for Washington and Gateshead? Can I also thank the Minister for his statement and confirm that I too am disgusted and appalled by the actions of Epstein, and my thoughts are with the victims of his crimes. Can the Minister confirm that we have an excellent Deputy Ambassador in Washington who will ensure that our mission continues and next week's visit will go ahead?
Well, Mr. Speaker, we have an excellent team overall in British Embassy Washington, and indeed I pay tribute to the work of all of our diplomatic service colleagues across the world, and they do an excellent job representing this country, ensuring that our security and prosperity is at the forefront of their work, and of course in our relationship with the United States in particular, that is crucially important. Our special relationship, our unique security partnership. I'll be at the United States Embassy later on today, and it's our closest and most important relationship. So I agree with him that there is a very excellent team in British Embassy Washington.
For the House, Edward Lee.
Obviously, this is a very sad day for the United States with 9/11 and the assassination last night. Now, this is such a crucial relationship with us with the upcoming state visit, and this is a dark cloud over this. So, will he forgive me, the Minister? I just give him some gentle advice. In my experience of these scandals, the cover-up and the lack of due process and the allegations of cronyism are much more serious than any original offence or alleged offence. So will the Minister ensure that every single document is released post-haste about the process, including this issue about the meeting that Mandelson requested with Prime Minister Blair over Epstein? So we need everything released straight away, move on and get a new ambassador.
Well, Mr. Speaker, he is absolutely right about the importance of our relationship with the United States and the upcoming state visit. Very important. We've got an extensive team working on that, and His Majesty the King is obviously very much looking forward to welcoming President Trump, and of course many officials working diligently day and night to ensure that visit is a success. I'm not going to get into the individual issues and claims that he makes, but what I will say is that this is a decisive decision, and in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador.
Kim Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would also like to offer my support to my honourable friend, the member for Washington and Gateshead. This incident follows a number of incidents that she's experienced this week, and it's out of order. I'd like to thank the Minister for his statement, and I'm really pleased that he has been sacked. But I'd like to know what due diligence was undertaken prior to his appointment, when everybody knew about his relationship with Epstein before his appointment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've made very clear, it was in light of additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson that the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador, and in particular Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged as new information. And again, I know my honourable friend well. I know that her thoughts and the thoughts of all of us will be with Epstein's victims and the appalling crimes that he committed.
Sir David Davis.
I think the House needs to understand the sheer size of the failure of the vetting process here. In the public domain, Lord Mandelson had to resign for not telling the truth about an interest-free loan. He had to resign because he had, on a second occasion, because he had helped out a business friend to get a passport. Beyond that, there are still unresolved doubts about his behaviour as the European Trade Commissioner when he gave concessions to the Russians, which helped his other dubious close friend, Mr. Deripaska. But on the positive vetting process, when he came to be a minister again, in 2010, the code, Section 7.1, says ministers must ensure that no conflict arises or could reasonably be perceived to arise between their public duties and their private interests, financial or otherwise. Secretaries of State don't have private diaries. He spent time with or in Mr. Epstein's flat, it seems quietly meeting other members of the people involved in the Sempra deal, which cannot be seen to have been following his proper duties as Secretary of State. Was this investigated? Because it was in the government documents. It doesn't have to be a private email he sees. Was this investigated, and was it made a judgment on?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as I've said, and he asks specifically about vetting, all candidates for ambassador positions are subject to routine extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course, and I would point him to the formal process outlined in the Diplomatic Service Code, which highlights the robust security clearance and vetting process which all members of the diplomatic service undergo. But again, I would point out that in light of additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw Lord Mandelson as Ambassador to the United States.
Sarah Coombs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I agree with the Minister's utter condemnation of all the horrendous crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. Does he agree that the government, as soon as this new information came to light, did take decisive action very swiftly, which is different from the party opposite when they were in government, when they had serious misgivings? It was actually the independent ethics advisor that ended up resigning.
Well, I do agree with my honourable friend that this is decisive action. The Prime Minister has acted in light of that additional information, Foreign Secretary has acted, and Lord Mandelson has been withdrawn as Ambassador to Washington.
Stephen Flynn.
I'm sure the Minister's delighted that he's not had to shred his own reputation like his Ministerial and Cabinet colleagues have had to do on the broadcast rounds over the course of recent days, including, of course, this morning trying to defend Lord Mandelson and the lack of judgment shown by the Prime Minister. I don't know what it is about the decades of scandals and being best friends with the notorious child trafficker and paedophile which should have got some alarm bells ringing in number 10 before this decision was taken. But if I listened correctly, the Minister did not confirm to the Father of the House that all materials relevant to this would be published. Did the Prime Minister know about these emails prior to standing up at that dispatch box just yesterday to say he had confidence in Mr Mandelson? And does he retain the Labour whip in the House of Lords?
Well, Mr Speaker, what I can commit to, and indeed other honourable members and right honourable members asking questions, is we will keep the House updated on these matters. That decisive decision has been made, and as I've been very, very clear, all candidates are subject to routine, extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course. The Prime Minister, in light of the additional information, has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as Ambassador to Washington, and in particular that additional information, the emails show that the depth and the extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. But where I do agree with him, of course, is on the appalling crimes committed by Jeffrey Epstein, and that the thoughts of all of us are with his victims, as they are every day, Mr Speaker.
Andrew Pett.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And I first associate the comments others made about the disgusting crimes of Jeffrey Epstein. Also, 24 years ago today, I was sat in the TUC Congress as a delegate when awareness of what happened on 9/11 had just come. So can I also put on record my tribute to the first responders and public service workers in New York who came to the aid of people, many of whom are still paying the price of that today. A lot has changed in politics since then. In those 24 years, one of the motivations that got me into public life was around accountability and the lack of accountability we saw from senior ministers when the party opposite were in government, and their failure to resign when scandals came up and the failure of front benchers to take action. So can I welcome the swift action this government has taken now new information has come to light? Can the Minister assure us that lessons will be learnt, and if these things arise again, this government will hold up the highest standards and take the action needed to protect public life?
Well, Mr Speaker, I can absolutely assure him of that, and this is decisive action. And Mr Speaker, you know, he references his time during the September 11th attacks, and I think we all remember where we were on that fateful day and that tragic day, and that's why we remember the victims, particularly today on that anniversary.
Sir Bernard Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I just point out that it was as plain as day after the exchanges between the Prime Minister and my right honourable friend, the Leader of the Opposition yesterday, that Lord Mandelson couldn't possibly carry on in his role. So why did the Prime Minister delay, or did he have to wait and be told what to do by Morgan McSweeney? And who is going to be the new ambassador, and how quickly is the new ambassador going to be appointed at this absolutely critical time when Russia is testing the very defences of NATO countries, and we are showing such a weak response?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he will know, having, I'm sure, visited our embassy in Washington on many occasions, that we have an excellent, dedicated team there, including also, of course, in King Charles Street, in the Foreign Office here in London. And they're working on many, many aspects of that crucial security, defence and economic relationship. We are preparing for the state visit, and they're working diligently in that regard, and I commend them for that work. But he asked about new information, and I've been very, very clear, Mr. Speaker, in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador, and I've gone into the particular items, and of course, in light of that, and mindful of the victims of Epstein's crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Whereas, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has acted swiftly and decisively. What a contrast with the party opposite. I note the Shadow Foreign Secretary is not in the House today. What happened when she broke the Ministerial Code? The Conservatives promoted her. Does the Minister agree with me that we will not take lectures on ethics from the party opposite?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I've been very, very clear that the Prime Minister has acted decisively on this matter, and in light of that additional information, the Prime Minister asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw Lord Mandelson as ambassador to Washington. That is decisive action. That is responding to that information, and I've explained the reasons for it.
Can I just say to one member, when he's mentioning another, I presume he has contacted to let them know that he's going to mention them. Is that the case? I'm sorry, but please do not do that again. We're meant to be treating each other with respect, and what I would say is, please, and it's a message to all members, if you're going to mention somebody, give the courtesy of ensuring the member is aware. Richard Ford.
Mr. Speaker, on the Foreign Affairs Committee, we have seen the high calibre of career diplomats who usually take up the most senior ambassadorial appointments. So it's not obvious to me why the British ambassador to the United States was a former MP. In the emails that have leaked overnight, it seems like Lord Mandelson thinks that to govern is to schmooze. Lord Mandelson famously declared in an election victory speech that he was a fighter and not a quitter, yet Lord Mandelson urged the convicted paedophile, Jeffrey Epstein, that to fight for early release was the right thing, and Lord Mandelson did not do the decent thing and quit. Does the Minister regret the original appointment?
Well, Mr. Speaker, he asked about precedent. He will know, of course, there is precedent, but of course, he will also know we do have absolutely excellent ambassadors and high commissioners around the world, and he and I have met many of them directly together, representing this country and doing that absolutely diligently. I've been very clear, Mr. Speaker, in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson. The Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador, and in particular, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information, and the emails show that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment.
Sir Roger Gay.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister's a decent man, and the whole House knows that the business of the House was delayed while he had to hurriedly rewrite the speech that he was expected to make. But he's stretching the bounds of credibility too far. Yesterday, the Prime Minister told this House that he had full confidence in a man who befriended the most vilest of convicted paedophiles. He should not have been appointed in the first place. That was a gross error of judgment, and everybody in this House knows it, and the Prime Minister has to take responsibility. But now that he's gone, will there be a Cabinet Office inquiry into the manner in which Mandelson, while a government minister, was negotiating with the convicted paedophile?
Well, Mr. Speaker, you'll understand why from the dispatch box I'm not going to comment on his last remarks, but what I will say is that the Prime Minister has acted decisively in light of this new information, and he has taken that decision to ask the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador. And I would say, again, for the House's information, in particular, the suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. The emails show that the depth of the relationship and the extent of the relationship was materially different from that known at the time of his appointment. And I think, again, Mr. Speaker, in light of that and mindful of the victims of Epstein's crimes, he has been withdrawn as ambassador with immediate effect.
Dr. Caroline Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the idea that our country should be represented in America or on the world stage by somebody who's trying to get a paedophile out of prison early will fill us all completely with revulsion. But I wonder if the Minister could be clearer. He's used the terms the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw the ambassador. He said the PM made the decision, but he's also said in this speech that Mandelson resigned. So could he be clear in simple terms? Did he resign or was he sacked?
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I've been very, very clear. The Prime Minister asked him to ask the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador. That is the process. He is no longer in his position. But what I will agree with her is our absolute revulsion across this House at Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
Rupert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I concur with the comments about Charlie Kirk, which the Minister made at the beginning. It shows the dangers, I think, that anybody who's brave enough to put themselves up for public service and try and change the world for the better, they risk those. They face those risks. Can I ask the Minister to first of all give us a reassurance that we will have total transparency on the process that was followed in the ambassadorial appointment? Number one. Number two, can the Minister please explain to the House, assuming we get over that hurdle, why the appointment of a man who described President Trump as a danger to the world, who the Americans described as an absolute moron, who has close links with China, and who has a history of misfeasance in public office, why was he the right appointment to make to the relationship with the most important and powerful country in the world, and a relationship which is essential to this country?
Well, Mr. Speaker, if I refer firstly to his first comments, and he and I fundamentally disagree on many different issues, but we know that we conduct our robust debate in this House and in our media and in our political society, and we don't engage in any form of political violence. And what has happened in the United States over the last 24 hours is simply appalling. And again, our thoughts are with all of Charlie Kirk's family and friends. And as somebody who worked very closely with both our late colleagues Joe Cox and David Amos, I think it shocked me to the core. It shocked all of us to the core, and it can never be acceptable. He asked about the processes. I've been very clear, Mr. Speaker. All candidates for ambassador positions are subject to extensive vetting and background checks as a matter of course, and I'd refer him to that formal process outlined in the Diplomatic Service Code. But what I can assure him, Mr. Speaker, is that we will keep the House updated on these matters.
Gagan Mahendra.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. While the whole House is welcoming of the withdrawal of Lord Mandelson as head of mission, can the Minister confirm whether Lord Mandelson is still being paid as a civil servant?
My understanding, Mr. Speaker, is that he's still an employee. Proper employment processes take place, but I will write to him and confirm an answer to that question. He's been asked to withdraw as ambassador, obviously in recent times. I will come back to him with a very detailed answer on that. I don't want in any way, inadvertently, Mr. Speaker, to mislead the House on an important matter.
Tom Gold.
Mr. Speaker, it seems that there's a broad consensus from the whole House. This felt like it was a question of when, not if. So I would ask the Minister, during that extended vetting procedure, was there ever any interference or pressure from either Number 10 or the Prime Minister?
Mr. Speaker, he will know. I simply am not going to go into vetting procedures. They're conducted independently, and certainly he can look at the details of how vetting processes are undertaken in that Diplomatic Service Code, which outline the process.
Sir Gavin Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Diplomatic Service Code states that diplomats' behaviour, action or inaction must not significantly disrupt or damage the performance or reputation of a diplomatic service. It also states that diplomats must set out the facts and relevant issues truthfully and correct any errors as soon as possible. In light of this, did the Lord Mandelson set out how many payments he had received by the sanctioned Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska, even to accounts in this country, Switzerland or other areas? And has there been a situation where there's been one set of rules for civil servants and another set of rules for friends of the Prime Minister and Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, Mr. Speaker, his question in essence to the right honourable gentleman gets to the essence of the decision that's been taken. In light of additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to the United States. The emails show the depth and the extent of the relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment, and in particular, Lord Mandelson's suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged is new information. He's well aware of the procedures, and of course he knows that I don't have the documents relating to the vetting process in front of me.
Jim Shannon.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. You've caught me unawares there. Can I, on behalf of my party, convey my support to the Honourable Lady for Washington on what's happened to her? I think it's very much in our thoughts, and was in her company yesterday. Also, on behalf of my party, can I also express deep sadness at the assassination of Charlie Kirk, a 31 Conservative influencer who engaged with young people across the United States of America. I know he's in heaven. Do pray for his wife and children. I think we should all do that. At times like this, it is essential that we have an ambassador in place to convey our sincere sympathy with our allies. The removal of Peter Mandelson is to be welcomed. He should never have been there in the first place, in my humble opinion. Does the Minister believe it is imperative we have an ambassador in place, and that that ambassador must have adequate history and qualifications rather than the jobs for the boys mentality? And further, what changes will the Minister make in the appointment process to restore confidence in that very role? Thank you.
Well, Mr. Speaker, my honourable friend is rightly known as one of the kindest and most generous members of this House, and again I thank him for his comments about our honourable friend and the attack that she's endured this morning. And again, I wholeheartedly agree with his comments in relation to Charlie Kirk. He can be assured that we are already conveying our condolences to the United States, and of course I expect to be with the United States Ambassador to London later on today, where I'll be able to do that in person. He will know from a practical point of view that of course there are many posts where we, for periods of time, have ambassadors or high commissioners vacant. We have excellent teams who do the job, and of course when ambassadors and high commissioners are travelling, there is a team in post able to represent this country and ensure our interests are maintained, and that is exactly what will happen in this case.
Dr. Luke Evans.
Mr. Speaker, this is about the Prime Minister's judgment. By Mandelson's own admission, he said there's more very embarrassing information coming. So the Prime Minister could have come to the House yesterday and said, I will suspend pending further investigation. But he didn't. He backed him. So on the back of that, can the Prime Minister be 100% sure that in any trade deals or any negotiations that Mr Mandelson has not been compromised by the information that has now come forward? And will he commit to investigate that?
Very good. Well, Mr. Speaker, again, I bring him back to the fundamental point here, which is in light of the additional information in emails written by Lord Mandelson, the Prime Minister asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador.
Oliver.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Can I associate myself with the words the Minister said about 9/11 and the untimely and tragic death of Charlie Kirk? Yesterday it was reported that in 2008 Lord Mandelson emailed Epstein and said that the conviction that happened to him in the United States, I quote, could not happen in Britain, but also encouraged Epstein to go for early release. Mr. Speaker, the whole House can see that the Prime Minister has an issue when it comes to judgment and only acting when he's pushed by events in this House. But will there be an investigation into Lord Mandelson's meetings while he was ambassador to see if they bear any relation or any interference on his current business interests? Will this government remove the whip from him in the House of Lords, yes or no? And will Lord Mandelson be entitled to severance pay once this action and this sacking has happened?
Well, Mr. Speaker, on the question about the whip, as an FCDO employee, Lord Mandelson was on a leave of absence from the other place. So that's very clear. As I said, Mr. Speaker, the emails show that the depth and the extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment, and in particular his suggestion that Jeffrey Epstein's first conviction was wrongful and should be challenged as new information, and that is why the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as ambassador to Washington.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister had behind process yesterday. The Minister is doing the same today. Did the Prime Minister know about these messages before Prime Minister's questions yesterday?
Mr. Speaker, I'm of course updating the House in real time as to actions and decisions that have been taken. I've been very clear about the new information that has come to light and the decisive decision that the Prime Minister has taken as a result.
Final question, John.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister claims that additional new information has come to light, which has resulted in the Ambassador being sacked. But can the Minister confirm that this is the only new information and all the other information was in the Prime Minister's knowledge?
Mr. Speaker, I refer him to the comments I've already made.
Point of order, Neil O'Brien.
The Minister says that the only reason Peter Mandelson has had to resign is the additional information that he had campaigned for the early release of Epstein. They are not saying exactly what they did or did not know at the point of appointment. And the only way for this House to know exactly what the government knew is to publish the documents relating to his vetting. Exactly. Now, if the government will not publish those documents, as the Minister says they will not, would it be possible for this House to obtain those documents using the humble address mechanism?
It's not a decision for me. What I would say is the Treasury bench has heard, and if the Minister wishes to respond, I'm more than happy. I'm not going to. I'm not going to continue the debate, but I'm going to take a point of order from Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On a point of order, I would just welcome clarity further to the point that was previously made. The Minister was asked on numerous occasions when the Prime Minister was made aware of the information which led, the additional email information which led to Mr Mandelson's sacking. He's not provided the House with that information. What avenues are available to us as members to find out when the Prime Minister knew about this additional information?
Look, the honourable member and the leader, I know very well he knows the mechanisms that he will start to use. What I would say is I don't think this is the end of it today. I think this will be returned at some point. In fairness to the Minister, he has said the House will be updated as and when they have the information. So the points have been taken. I expect the points to be answered sometime. But let's just... It's going to be a long weekend before we get to Monday. Let's leave it there. I don't want to continue the debate.
And it's in relation to this issue, but in terms of the House procedures. Can I ask you, Mr. Speaker, the information that I took from the Minister's answer was that Lord Mandelson had not given the full account of his actions in the past while going through vetting processes. Therefore, can I ask you, as a member of the House of Lords, what are the disciplinary mechanisms that can be taken by the procedures of the House of Lords to make him accountable for that action, if true?
Can I just say, I've enough with the House of Commons. The responsibility of the House of Lords is not for me, and we're certainly not going to take it. Right, let's leave it there.